We're recording.
All
Hi,
right.
this is Nelson with Creekwood.aquatics, and you're listening to Aquarist Assembled. Aquarist Assembled is brought to you by Creekwood.aquatics, a better class of nutrition. Creekwood.aquatics is a small aquaculture company based out of Floresville, Texas, where we aquaculture live foods like Daphnia magna, Mona, phytoplankton, both marine and freshwater. Today I have Faith. She's a fellow aquarist. Um, Introduce yourself, Faith.
Hi, everyone. My name is Faith. Like Nelson said, I am an aquarist. I was actually promoted to aquarist last July or so. So I'm pretty new to this field, but obviously I have a huge love for it, and it's what I'm really passionate about. So,
That's great. All right, we're going to start. What initially ignited your passion for the aquarium hobby?
so a couple years ago, I started in animal care. I started with big cats. So completely opposite of aquariums, not even close to the same thing. But really, my whole life, I have been fascinated by the ocean, fascinated by all the species in the ocean. Um, and so when I was working with these big cats, I was like, okay, this is really cool, but this is not what I want to do. So in the middle of like going to school, I was going to go to school for zoology. I changed my major to marine biology, and I was like, okay, I'm committing to this. I'm going to do it. And so about 2 years ago, maybe a little over 2 years ago, I started in an aquarium at a pretty big facility, and that's kind of where I got my foot in the door. And once I started working at an aquarium, I knew that it would be what I want to do in the long run. So, yeah.
That's funny again. Even with my first experience working at the pet shops, it's not something I necessarily thought I was going to do for the rest of my life, but it's
Mhm.
something that the more I did it, the more I realized there was nothing else I wanted to do besides this. Um,
Exactly.
Here's my next question. Uh, Take us back. What is the earliest aquarium related experience that you remember?
Oh, non-paid, right? Like just any experience.
Any experience. Like, was there anything in your childhood that made you interested in aquariums? Like, did you have a fish tank growing up? Like stuff like that.
Yeah, so I did. I would say that the very first like spark that I had, this is super cliche, but Finding Nemo, 10 out of 10 movie. It was my favorite childhood movie, I'm gonna be so honest. Bruce, other kids were like scared of Bruce. They were like, oh, he's scary. And I was like, he's so cool. Big shark, like that was me. So yeah, that was definitely like the very first, if I had to rewind to the very beginning, it was definitely Finding Nemo. And I'm sure I'm not the only one with that answer too. Like I had a feeling you were gonna ask me that, so I brought my special friend
Dory,
out
like a
here.
giant
Yeah,
Dory plush.
yeah. So 10 out of 10 movie, definitely my first love. So besides Finding Nemo, of course, I did have an aquarium growing up. So my dad is also a pretty big fish nerd. So he had a big, I would say, 55-gallon tank throughout my childhood, and we had Oscars, so like African cichlids. And there's a lot of funny memories I can remember about having that tank in the house. Like my dad, he would be like, Faith, go outside, catch grasshoppers and bring them in. And I'm like, why? And he'd be like, just do it, just do it. And I'd be like, okay. So go outside, catch as many grasshoppers as I could find. He'd be like, toss them in there, toss them in there. I'd throw one in and the cichlids would go crazy for that. And I was like, this is so cool. Like watching them go from swimming all calm to just going ham on those grasshoppers. It was like so cool. That was like my first like real experience with aquariums. And of course, my parents had busy lives. They would be like, Faith, you know, this is your fish tank now. Like go feed the fish. Feed the fish every day. When you remember it, go feed them. And I was like, okay, I got this. It was like my first job. So, of course, whenever I started an actual job, like a paid job in an aquarium, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so fulfilling. So
You
yeah.
know, the funny thing is, I tell people like I get paid to do this, but I would do it for free. Just don't tell anybody. I mean, I
Exactly.
basically do it free when I go home and when I run the business. It's
There
basically
you go.
free. No one's
Yeah.
paying me.
No.
I'm not even
No,
paying myself sometimes.
it's so fun. It's so fun. And like I don't have my own tank in my house right now cuz I just moved, but I'm definitely keeping my eye out trying to think of what I want to do to my next system. But there's a lot of things to explore for sure. It's you can just make anything of it, whatever you want. Not at your job, obviously. That's a little bit more more different, but at home, like just knowing that you can do whatever you want, like put any plants in, any rocks, any species you want, you just kind of, make it your own. And I think that's really cool. It's really fun.
Yeah. Well, here's a spoiler alert. Um, Me and Faith are going to work on a series where we're going to help build her an aquarium.
There
We're
it
going to
is.
start by the initial tank setup. We're going to decide what filtration, the gravel. We're going to decide what direction fish
Substrate.
she wants to go in. And then we got permission to film at a local fish store. And we're actually going to get to go and select our fish and bring them back, acclimate them, and we'll start Faith on her personal home aquarium journey.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't sure if we were going to tell them that this time, so I'm glad you brought it up. I'm super excited to do that,
Spoilers
though.
coming up. Stay tuned. And remember,
Mhm.
like and subscribe to Creekwood Aquatics on YouTube. You can follow us on all social media. And you can also go to our website, Creekwood Aquatics. Um, but yeah, just a simple like goes a long way. A simple sub goes a long way.
It
This is a
does.
channel. This is a business that we're growing from the ground up, and we want to continue growing. Things have been going
Hmm.
great. Let's keep going. And on a
Hmm.
side note, when I started early in my career, Finding Nemo came out,
Oh, yeah.
and it was a clownfish bonanza. People would come to the store and they were like, "We want your clownfish." So we were selling out of clownfish left and right, selling out of hippo tanks left and right. And I was like, those two really don't go together. But
No.
one of the times that we realized like the store realized that we have to slow down is someone brought back some clownfish and they didn't make it. So the policy was you lose a fish, bring in a water sample. We test it. We try to figure out where he went wrong.
Hmm.
We tested this tank. Everything was looking normal. We tested salinity, zero. And we said, is this a freshwater aquarium? And she goes, well, yeah. And then we realized we need to do a better job educating the guests because they don't know exactly what they're looking for. So they come in with their
No.
freshwater Nemo, and
They're
people
like,
back in the
oh,
day,
just
they were
put it in some
selling.
water and it'll be fine. Yeah, I don't need to do anything. They need filtration? What?
Yeah, so that was a learning experience.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a big
definitely.
learning experience for me. I was like, all right, we need to start asking people like fresh or
Hmm.
salt, and then pick a side.
Yeah.
All right. So my next question is: we all have a favorite fish. So what fish for you holds a special place in your heart?
Oh my goodness. That's a hard question because I really fall in love with anything that I work with. Um, oh man.
For me, it's every cichlid. Done.
Every Yeah,
African
that's fair.
cichlids, especially.
That's fair. Honestly, at my current job, there's so many species that I have like really fallen in love with. Um, One of my favorite animals that I work with, and all my coworkers know this, but she is a marbled African lungfish. Her name is Mallory, and she's really awesome. She feeding her on a daily basis. She could be at the bottom of the tank. And for people who don't know what kind of fish that is, she kind of resembles an eel. She's not an eel, but kind of like the body shape of an eel. Her laying at the bottom of the tank, and then I'll walk up and I'll be like, Mallory. And then when she sees me, you can tell, like, we make eye contact, hard eye contact, and she'll just swim right up and pop her head up. And feeding her is so fun. She'll like suck the food out of my hand right away, and it's always a joy seeing her. But I'm also really biased to puffer fish. There's a porcupine puffer at work right now, and every morning when I'm cleaning the glass on the outside of the tanks, I just will go talk in like the little baby voice and tell him good morning and watch him get all excited. And yeah, so I really love puffers too. Bamboo sharks, coral cat sharks, epaulet. Um, really love my shark species as well. But yeah, I have a lot of favorites.
It's funny that every fish you named could take your fingers, so be careful.
Oh, every single one. And I also have the zebra morays and the snowflake moray eels, and they could also take my fingers if they wanted.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, when I was younger working at the pet shop, I got bit by a green moray eel, and
Oh,
it was
man.
one of the worst and most embarrassing experiences of my life. It was traumatizing to everyone and me who was there. Uh,
Oh,
here's my
I
next
can
question.
imagine. If
Here's
I
my
ever
next.
get bit by something, I do my very best to be subtle about it. I'm like, oh, no one saw that. Okay,
Oh no, there
moving on.
was no subtlety. There was no subtlety.
It was that painful.
Wasn't
Yeah,
painful. I actually didn't feel it, but what I did see was a
it's
lot of blood,
scary.
a lot of blood, and I was
Oh,
like, it's time to go. It's time to go.
yep. There's nothing subtle about blood everywhere. That's for sure.
And then again, I was so young that after I bandaged myself up, I went back to the sales floor and I was like, "Hey, where's the people I was trying to sell the eel to?" They were like, "They're gone." I was like, "Oh."
Of course.
All right. Here's my next question. Throughout your aquarium journey, have you? What is the most valuable piece of advice you've ever been given?
Hmm. Okay. So, like I said, I became an aquarist last year, and I started at a new facility back in September. Um, so I was really excited to accept the position, and but I was pretty new to being an aquarist. So there were like some moments where I would feel discouraged and be like, "Oh man, everyone knows about this one thing except me," you know. And sometimes it's easy to get down on yourself, especially when you're new to the field. But some of my coworkers at my current job, they would say, "You know what? We all started, in the same place. We were all inexperienced. And then every day when you come into work, it's something new. You're going to learn something new every single day." And that was something that, I had to get used to. I was like, okay, like, just because I'm not as experienced as my coworkers who have like 3, 4, 5 years of experience, I'm going to get there one day. And every single day that I leave work, I know more than I know from the day before. So it's a learning experience. But being encouraged by my coworkers, like, hey, you're gonna get there. Like, you're already doing so good. You're getting better. You get it. That was really helpful to me. And I try to carry that with me every single day. Like, hey, I'm learning. I'll get where they are one day. So, yeah.
Yeah, when I started this field, again working at that first pet shop,
Hmm.
talking to all the managers, all the senior employees there, they always had like these crazy aquarium stories. They've been doing this stuff for decades. And
Hmm.
I was like, am I ever going to get to that point? And 20 years later, I'm like, I have those crazy stories. I have those experiences.
Exactly. Yep.
But it all comes with time. But the thing is, we're
It
always
does.
learning. Even again, 20 years of experience, I'm still learning every single
Hmm.
time I go to work. Even again, running the business, the Creekwood Aquatics side of things.
Yeah.
I'm learning every single day. Even this whole podcast thing, we're learning.
We're learning. Hey, that's all that matters, right?
So here's a question that I like, because again, I think a lot of the issue when it comes to the aquarium, aquarium based careers, is that historically they've always, like, we do the job because we love it. We don't do the job because we ever expect to get rich from it. But how long do
Exactly.
you see yourself in the aquarium field?
Yeah, so back to your point, yeah, we're not in this field to be rich, that's for sure. Um, but we do it because we love it. And I honestly, ever since I started an aquarium, I have fallen in love with it. And this is what I want to do really for the rest of my life. In one way or another. Um, I wanna progress and grow as an aquarist. I know not every facility has like the same like some places have like Aquarist 2, Aquarist 3, or like senior Aquarist. I want to be doing this for a long time. I hope that one day, I could become a senior Aquarist down the road. That is one of my biggest goals for myself in the next few years. So yeah, I really plan on staying in this field for sure.
One thing I tell people who work with me or for me is that, I don't expect them to stay in whatever facility, whatever store,
Mhm.
forever.
Yeah.
But just like I did, just gain the knowledge and always try to go a step ahead. So even when I did work at the pet shops, like I worked my way up to manager, and
Yeah.
when I worked at the other aquariums, I worked my way back up to higher leadership,
Hmm.
and it's the only thing you could do. And it's not that we want to work places and we want to leave. We want to jump ship. The thing is, we want to always advance our career. We want to grow. We want more responsibility, and you want to be able to train people beneath you. For me, it's a badge and honor when one
Hmm.
of my people do tell me, "Hey, I accepted a position at another facility, and they're going to move up from Aquarius to maybe a lead or maybe a manager."
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
that's a point of pride for me, because then I can say I helped develop the next generation of Aquarius. And
Exactly.
again, it's
Hmm.
awesome.
Yeah.
So, do you have any funny aquarium stories?
I probably have hundreds of funny aquarium stories. Yeah.
I mean, if you don't, then you're doing it wrong.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. Let me see. The first one that comes to mind when I think of funny is so one time I was an aquarist. I was working over in the United States Virgin Islands. Um and one of the duties that we had in aquarium was to host shark encounters, and so we were in
Ooh.
the water with juvenile lemon sharks. So I was in there with them twice a day, every day. They're swimming around me, circling me. um, which is, it's funny because I was never scared to get in there. Like, after my first day, I called my mom and told her, and she was like, "You were doing what?" Like, freaking out. She's just freaking out, being a mom. And I was like, "It's fine, it's fine, you know?" And so one day I'm in the water. I am feeding three juvenile nurse sharks. And one of the nurse sharks like slid off of the target a little bit and ended up biting my lower leg, like right above my knee, like my thigh area. um and it only hurt for like maybe a second. Like, it didn't really hurt at all, but i I saw the little bite mark, and there were like drops of blood where each tooth went, and I was freaking out. I was like, "This is the coolest thing that has ever happened to me, that will ever happen to me. I gotta call my family." Like, my boss was just laughing. She was like, "Why are you freaking out?" And I was like, this is baby's first shark bite. Like, this is so cool." So of course I hopped out of the water. There's just like a tiny bit of blood there. You could barely even see it, but you could just see this tiny little circle. And so I get on FaceTime. I call my mom and I'm like, "Mom, guess what? I just got bit by a shark." And she's like, "What? What?" And I'm like, "I'm fine. This is cool. We're celebrating." And she was like, "Oh, okay." And so then I hang up on my mom. I'm like super excited still. So I call my dad. I FaceTime my dad. I'm like, "Look at this." And he's like, "That's awesome. That's so awesome." Which is the, appropriate response. So dad passed the vibe check for sure. Um, yeah, and then I called my grandma and so forth. My grandma was like, "What? Are you okay?" I was like, "I'm fine. This is cool." And she was like, "Oh, okay, as long as you're fine." But yeah, no. It was not a big deal at all. I definitely over exaggerated the situation, but very cool story. I always tell everybody. But yeah, it was pretty funny. When I got off the phone with my family, my coworkers and my old boss were like, "You are so silly. Like, why did you freak out so much?" And I was like, "This is just, not a lot of people can say that they got even nicked by a little shark. It's just cool." So, but I'm also a really big shark nerd. So yeah, it was pretty
So,
funny.
So back at my first job ever, here's my funny story. Um, we got in a bunch of electric blue crayfish, and they were the
Mm.
coolest little crayfish I've ever seen. So we popped them in the enclosure. We acclimate them. We popped them in. We left the lights off for the day just so they didn't stress out. And
Hmm.
next morning we came to work. They were all gone. Tank was empty.
Oh,
And we're like, did someone steal like all our crayfish? So I don't know. My manager disappeared. I guess they were checking the camera. They were trying to figure out what happened to these things.
hmm.
Anyway, later on that day, we were in the warehouse and we were just looking at the ground, and all of a sudden we saw a crayfish. And we're like, how did this crayfish get in the warehouse? So we picked them up, we popped them in a tank, and then we realized that there was an airline that was hanging in the aquarium, and they
Oh
climbed up the
no!
airline, and then they went
And they
over the
left.
side of the tank. Yeah, and they scattered. So we didn't find them all, but like we started lifting up
Oh,
panels behind the aquariums, and we were finding them just
finding
kind of
them in
tucked
everywhere.
away in the
Oh,
corners. Yeah.
little escape artists, I swear. You're
Yeah,
like,
that was
where did
adorable.
they go? Like that saying, oh,
I was
they
like,
didn't
dude, I
just
was like, that was a
walk
lot
up
of
and
crayfish.
leave.
Where are they?
You're like, no, they did walk up and leave.
All right. So here's our next question.
Okay.
Uh, Looking back, what is the most rewarding or fulfilling experience you've had in the aquarium field?
Ooh, that's tough. There's a lot of things popping into my mind right now. Um, Let me see. So recently, actually, one of my sections, one of my tanks at my current job, um, they are a species of cichlids, Lake Taransi cichlids from Madagascar.
Cool.
Um, so they haven't bred in years. I've been told by my boss and my coworkers. But I recently took over that tank in September when I started there, and the last couple like maybe month weeks, they are breeding like crazy. They are just breeding like crazy. And like some of my coworkers, like the senior aquarist was like, "Man, this hasn't happened in a while. Like, what are you doing?" And I was just like, "Oh, I don't know. Like, I'm just, and then explain what I was doing. And he was like, "Well, keep up the good work." And like that moment for me, it was such a small thing, but I was like, "Oh my gosh, like this feels so good." Um, so yeah, I actually got to go retrieve them. It's a pretty big tank. These babies were just, you can barely see them with your eye. Like they're teeny tiny, hundreds of them. So I was
If
told
not
whenever they were,
thousands.
yeah, if not thousands. So I was told whenever they were born that I would be allowed to go and try to retrieve them from the tank. That way we can, put them aside and let them grow, because leaving them in the tank, they're susceptible to be eaten by the bigger cichlids in there. Like the parents fight them off, but they can only do so much. They were working day and night to protect those babies, but I was like, let me go get them. So yeah, I was able to go retrieve them. I got almost all of them. It was actually pretty cool. But yeah, that was a really rewarding experience for me. I felt really good about it, and I was super proud.
For people who don't know, cichlids are some of the best fish parents you're ever going to see.
Yeah.
Whether it's South Americans, whether it's African cichlids with their mouth brooding, um, they are very territorial. They set up their breeding sites. They don't let anybody in. Um, they are very, very good, watchful, considerate parents. And
They
I
are.
think that's why I love cichlids so much. It's fun to watch them breed, and it's fun to watch that whole dynamic when
Hmm.
they're taking care of their fry.
Definitely.
So here's a fun question for you. Every fish has specific dietary needs. What are your favorite things to feed your fish?
Oh man. Recently we started feeding our fish like shrimp. Like mostly we would feed them like silver sides, capelin, simple things like that. I'd chop it up and they'd go crazy for it. But recently I introduced my systems to shrimp, and oh my gosh, they go crazy. Like my bamboo sharks and my coral cat and epaulet sharks, that is like their new favorite thing, I swear. The triggerfish, I have a few triggerfish. They also really, really love shrimp. But I give them a large variety of things like omnivore gel, capelin, some clam, either shelled or deshelled. I like to give my sharks shelled clam. That way it makes it a little more enriching for them. I'll kind of open it like halfway and then I'll toss them in the tank and watch them go crazy and try to open it and who's going to open it first. So that's really fun to watch as well. But yeah, feeding time is fun.
Yeah, it's important to have variety when you feed your
Yep.
fish. My fish at home, they get flakes, they get pellets, bloodworms, shrimp. I'll get clam. I'm not that fancy, but you know what else my corals get? They get Creekwood Aquatics
Oh,
phytoplankton, both marine, and then I have freshwater phytoplankton for my Daphnia magna. Daphnia magna are also a great food to feed your fish. Great enrichment, great nutrition. Remember, Creekwood Aquatics.
speaking of that in Creekwood.aquatics, for Christmas this year, I was blessed with the opportunity to get a beta from Creekwood.aquatics. Um, and yeah, I've had him since a few days after Christmas, I would say. Um, and I fed my fish like pellets and some flakes, but I have not seen him eat as well as he ate when I had the products from Creekwood Aquatics. He went crazy over the Daphnia. Like it was so fun watching him like hunt and like move around. Like with the flakes or like pellets, he's just like, wow, I'm eating like a peasant. Like I don't want this. Like I know there's more out there and you should do better. Like I can just feel him talking to me. But no, whenever I give him the Daphnia, he just gets so excited. He'll just swim around like hunting and it's fun to watch. Like it's also enriching for me. Like, yeah. 10 out of 10. Daphnia, order yours today. I have
Thank you.
videos to prove this, by the way.
But no, like yeah, it's all great. I mean, to watch these fish, like when you give them a live food to target and to hunt and actually get the bee fish, there's nothing greater than that for them and for us.
Exactly.
So let's go a little bit behind the scenes. What is an average day for Faith when she's working at the aquarium?
Yeah, definitely. So the beginning of my work week usually starts off with mostly water quality. So testing ammonia levels, nitrite, nitrate, pH, temperature of the tank, DO levels, make sure everybody's good. As soon as I get in, I do a quick walkthrough, make sure nothing abnormal is going on in my systems. All the lights are on, all the animals are okay, everybody's swimming. So yeah, that's what I do when I first get there. And then throughout my week, it kind of just depends on how many big projects we have going on. Um, but yeah, I'll do like water changes, depending on my water quality, but I'll do weekly water changes. I'll adjust rock work, any woodwork. I'll do sand vacuums, gravel vacuums, things like that. But that's mostly what my week looks like. Right now, I have some new fish that are going through quarantine. So the last few days, I've been giving them their medicated gel diets and making sure that everybody's doing okay in there, making sure that the systems are cycling. So yeah, that's what my week this week has looked like at least. I know we have some more big projects coming up soon.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to let our viewers know or our listeners know before we conclude?
Um, Not that I can think of at the moment, no. I do have a video here pulled up of my fish from Creekwood.aquatics, though. So this is him, if you can see it. He's gorgeous.
Look at that guy
That
go.
there at the end was him going after the Daphnia, man. They will not do that for flakes or pellets, I'm telling you. But yeah.
Well, Faith, it was a pleasure getting the time to talk to you. This
Definitely.
is okay. What's the name of my show? It's
You
Aquarist
forgot?
Assembled. I did forget. Again, me and Faith should be filming that series where we're going to help
Yeah.
build their fish tank. Series is going to be called "Building a Better Fish Tank." It's going to
Mhm.
be really cool. It's going to be really exciting. We're going to
It
get to
is.
see this aquarium get built from the ground up. We're going to
Hmm.
pick all the fish. It's going to be awesome. But remember, if you want to see things like that, like and subscribe to the channel. Leave comments, ask us questions. We can answer those questions probably in next week's podcast. And remember,
Yeah.
this show is going, it's going to premiere every Thursday, 8 o'clock. And once we start working the bugs out of this, it'll be a live show. So we'll be able to actually interact with people. All right. And last thing is that this podcast is available on Spotify under Aquarist Assemble. It's also, you can find the video on YouTube at Creekwood.aquatics.
Yeah. And with
That's
that,
it,
I was
Faith.
going to say, if anybody has any recommendations, anything they would want to see maybe for this tank that we're going to set up, please leave a comment. I'm very, very excited to start that tank up. So if you guys have any ideas, yeah, just leave a comment.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Don't go anywhere, Faith.
Okay.